Hi, I'm Steffany Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Hey, my sweet Strangelings! We're heading into the holidays, and we thought you'd enjoy some nostalgia from Something Scary for the next few weeks. Longtime viewers may remember these compilations that we used to do, so we are excited to bring them back. Hope you enjoy.
My name is Juliana, and I'm originally from Pretoria, a city in South Africa. As a kid, the only stories I'd heard about the Tokoloshi came from my cousins in smaller villages. But last year, my family moved north to Botswana to a remote village called Mochudi, where people really believed in spirits. My new schoolmates always talked about the Tokoloshis, which they said were conjured when an enemy placed a hex on you, covered in patchy dark hair and only a couple of feet tall. They crawl out of wetlands at night, shape-shifting through closed doors and windows to get into your bedroom. It all sounded like fantasy to me. The only thing odd about our new house so far was that at sundown, a woman in all black would walk our street. I assumed she was a Moswagadi, a widow, since black was what widows wore in our culture. Otherwise, the house was perfect, and the best part was my bedroom. I didn't even mind sleeping with my mattress on the floor while we waited for my new bed frame to arrive. One night, as I was fast asleep, something bit hard into my left big toe. I tossed back the covers, but nothing was there. Ugh, we must have rats, I thought. So the next day I asked my mom for help and she laid out traps around my bed. That night, I was only half asleep when a surge of pain rippled through my right foot. I flung off the covers to see a tiny, mangy-haired creature biting down on my bloody foot with its sharp, rotten teeth. Its blue eyes cast a stare of pure evil at me. Horrified, I screamed for my parents, who ran in as the Tokoloshi slithered out the window, unseen. But what my parents did see, written on the wall in blood, was my name, Juliana. I tried to explain what had happened, but they were convinced I was just making a scene to get attention. I had acted out and drawn on the walls as a child, but never with my own blood. Regardless, they patched my toe up and told me to go to bed. At school the next day, my friend Laredo told me I was lucky I awoke. If it got its teeth in you, you could get a horrible illness, paralysis, even death. Tokoloshis were invisible to anyone but their victims, he explained, which is why my parents couldn't see it. But who would have put a hex on you, Laredo pondered. My mind immediately went to the woman in black. As the sun set that night, the Moswagadi made her rounds, and I asked my dad to mention the Tokoloshi to her, but he refused, saying it would be offensive. Luckily, Laredo told me another way to deal with the Tokoloshi: get to higher ground. So, my parents placed my mattress on 4 chairs, and I was confident I would finally be free of it. But the second I drifted off, I felt a stinging sensation as jagged teeth sunk into my toes. I kicked, but the Tokoloshi held on, biting deeper as it grinned at me. I shrieked for help as I felt my body go numb from the waist down. It was paralyzing me. My parents hurried in, unable to see the Tokoloshi as it slithered off. Angry I'd awoken them, they scolded me and left the room. All alone, I realized that if I was going to rid myself of the Tokoloshi, I'd have to handle it myself. I looked out my window to see the Moswagadi passing by. My legs still tingled, but I got them moving and ran out the house after her. Have a problem with me? I asked her. She slowly turned around and glared down at me. Yes, she replied, you're in my home. The home I was forced to sell to your family when my husband passed. I felt bad for her. Leaving home was bad enough for me. I couldn't imagine losing one. Still, it was not my fault. I had to stand my ground. I'm sorry for your loss, I said, but I can't help what my parents did. Now take that hex off me. The Moswagadi grinned and said, if that's what you wish. As I returned home and got into bed, it felt like the curse was lifted. I laid back when horrific cries came from my parents' bedroom. I ran in to see my parents' feet being shredded by something invisible. I froze in shock, realizing the awful truth. The Moswagadi had removed my curse, but my parents would suffer and pay Kimiko was a beautiful young woman who was only held back by her shyness. So when Takeshi, a classmate to her when they were little and now captain of the soccer team, asked her out, she was thrilled but beyond nervous. Their hometown of Kyushu, Japan, had many romantic areas, but none as popular for high school dates as the secret beach. And that was exactly where they were headed. The secret beach was very picturesque, but private because it was forbidden. A lot of trouble seemed to occur there, including a few people who had recently gone missing. There were rumors that a creature known as the Nuri Onna, a huge sea snake with a human head, claws, and vampiric tastes, might be the cause. Kimiko was scared of the old legends, but she was far more worried about looking cool in front of Takeshi. Embarrassed to be nerdy enough to even know the stories, she decided not to put a damper on the mood and kept it to herself. The date was going well. Takeshi made her laugh about old times as they walked close together down to the picturesque shore. She felt like she could come out of her shell with Takeshi. As they ventured even closer to the water, Kimiko began to become uncomfortable with thoughts of aquatic fiends, but was distracted when Takeshi held her hand. It was a warm day, but as they rounded the bottom of a cliff, it blocked out the sun. The air got cooler and it got darker. Kimiko shivered, and Takeshi held her closer and began to lean in for a kiss. That's when the screaming began. Terrified screams from a woman nearby. "Help! My baby! My baby! I can't swim!" The couple ran towards the water and found a woman thrashing in the ocean some distance from the shore. With one arm, she supported a baby above the crashing waves. Kimiko was a skilled swimmer and Takeshi a natural athlete, so they both leapt into the raging waters without hesitation to help the mother and child. When they reached the woman, she quickly handed her baby off to Kimiko and latched onto Takeshi for dear life. As the woman caught her breath, Kimiko realized that she was able to stand in the water, which surprised her given her own smaller height. As Takeshi escorted the woman back towards the shore, Kimiko noticed something seemed to be following them. She looked down to see if maybe the woman was caught in seaweed and realized, much too late, what the woman actually was. That from the shoulders down, she was different. The woman's arms were actually crooked with long black nails that resembled a dragon's claws. Her skin had scales that glittered under the water. The woman peered over Takeshi's shoulder and stared at Kimiko with a hunger in her eyes. She licked her lips, revealing dagger-like teeth that dripped with drool. Kimiko stopped, dead in her tracks with the stories of the Nuri Onna racing through her mind. She looked down and saw that the baby she thought she held was in fact nothing alive at all. Just a homunculus of decaying sea life made to look like a baby. Kimiko screamed and tried to throw the imposter child away from her, but it suddenly sprang to undead life and held on tight, dragging her like an anchor into the water below. She fought against the baby doppelganger's grip, struggling to break the surface. She then felt a serpentine tail slither its way around her body. It squeezed her, slowly crushing her breath from her. Her eyes followed along the tail until she found Takeshi, struggling with the rest of the monster. Its claws were embedded so deep in his skin that she couldn't see any trace of them. The snake-like tongue of this gruesome creature was buried into Takeshi's throat, acting as a straw as it slurped his blood. As the coils of the monster tightened, the fake putrid baby fell away from Kimiko. She realized this might be her only chance to escape. With no other option, she bit as hard as she could into the monster's flesh, causing it to loosen just enough for her to make her escape. Takeshi's eyes met Kimiko's, and with the last of his strength, he began to choke the Nuri Onna, keeping it occupied long enough for Kimiko to breach to the surface and gasp for breath. However, before she could dive back under and try to rescue Takeshi, the tail of the Nuri Onna whipped out, knocking her backwards into the strong waves that then washed her back to shore. Neither her crush nor the monster ever surfaced. And the once shy woman knew that she would spend the rest of her life hunting this murderous, cunning beast, out for revenge against the Nuri Ona. Valentina spent 3 years as a personal assistant for tech billionaire Jeff Coyne. Jeff had promised her that after a year, he would promote her. However, Valentina was spending most of her time doing every kind of demeaning errand, never being thanked and getting paid miserably. The only thing Jeff gave her was crippling anxiety and a nauseating feeling whenever he came into the room. After a particularly tough week, she was just about to quit when Jeff invited her to join him for the biggest party of the summer on his yacht in Karoo, South Africa. The guest list included Saudi princes and European royalty. Valentina, who hadn't had a vacation in 3 years, thought this would be a good opportunity to have some fun and then quit afterwards. As the yacht left the dock, Jeff explained to the group why he had chosen to sail to Karoo, South Africa. He said there was a legend surrounding Karoo that had intrigued him for years. It was believed that the mythical mermaids that swam in those waters could bring good fortune to all who fell under their spell. Jeff laughed, saying that the legend was ridiculous, but on the off chance that they actually did exist, he would never fall under their spell because he already could buy everything his heart desired. More importantly, if he saw a mermaid, he would prefer to kill it and mount it on the wall of his yacht. The first evening, Jeff invited everyone on the deck to have some drinks. As the sky grew darker, Jeff pulled out a crate of $3,000 a bottle Dom Perignon champagne. After bragging about how expensive it was, he opened multiple bottles, pouring the champagne all over himself and willing guests, and then chucking half-filled bottles into the ocean. Valentina snorted in disgust at the waste, remembering why she was quitting, and fervently wished Jeff and his arrogant friends would all disappear. As the night continued, the wind picked up and the waves grew angry. Suddenly, a hauntingly melodic song emanated throughout the yacht. The group of billionaires made their way towards the deck to look at the ocean. Swimming alongside the yacht, Valentina was astonished to see figures swiftly swimming in a circle formation. Upon closer look, she could see that these were mermaids. But unlike the ones she'd seen depicted in popular media, multicolored tails flashed under the water. They were dark-skinned, with long, kinky, coily black hair and glowing red eyes. As they chanted, their mouths opened, exposing sharp, predatory teeth. These were the mermaids from the legend of Mami Wata, known for carrying expensive baubles stolen from pirate ships that sailed these waters. The Mami Wata were thought to bring good fortune or dire disaster to those that fell under their spell. A chill ran down Valentina's spine as she watched Jeff and all of his friends begin to undress. One by one, they jumped off the yacht into the churning seas. As they went, many mumbled their deepest desires out loud. "At last, I will become the richest man on earth," she heard Jeff say. The sonorous tones of the Mami Wata circled the men. Valentina watched in horror as the leader of them all sank her sharp teeth into Jeff's neck. The Mami Wata's fingers then gouged into his eye sockets and, using a supernatural strength, cracked his body in half. As his intestines spilled out, she draped them around her neck like fine jewelry. The other Mami Wata had been watching her in anticipation, waiting for her signal to feast on all of the guests. The leader, who had consumed Jeff, looked at Valentina with a bloody smile and a sparkle in her glowing red eyes. She nodded to the others, giving them permission to feast. Valentina was so horrified. She covered her eyes and ears and cradled herself as the sound of bones breaking and blood-curdling screams of the rich could be heard while they were eaten alive. When Valentina finally opened her eyes, The dark brown-skinned, red-eyed Mamiwata was laying in front of her on the yacht, multicolored tail flicking in the air as she stared into her soul. The leader then whispered,
"Don't you see? Everything your heart desired has come true. Come, be with us, child."
Valentina's wish for everyone on that yacht to disappear had come true. As if someone else was controlling her body, Valentina stood up and took the Mamiwata's hand as they both dived into the ocean, never to be seen again.
Thanks so much for listening. Like and share if this video gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. See you next time.